Hello, everybody, and welcome back for Unplugged Live, the series where we talk to real and remarkable individuals about significant life changes or how they incorporate various tools and practices to better support themselves and live life to the fullest. Now, today I am so excited to be joined by the wonderful Lisa Stockman. Lisa is a personal stylist based here in Melbourne. She spent most of her 20s living in both Italy and Japan, so a range of cultural knowledge there. And she came to become a personal stylist through running her own boutique and starting a side hustle for a number of years, and has long been in the fashion industry for now over 15 years, so is a real wealth of knowledge. Now, Lisa also specializes in working with people who are going through big changes in their life or have made significant shifts, like ending a job, having a divorce, coming out post-surgery, maybe that Saturn returns time of that 28, 29 years old where everything seems to change quite dramatically, and does incredible work in helping to make people feel good from the inside outward. So I'm incredibly excited to chat to Lisa today and share all her wonderful knowledge. I've learned so much from her, I know, in the last few months since I've known her, so I have no doubt that she will bring a lot to you today, and you'll leave walking away learning so much more than you ever knew before. So I think Lisa's just joined, so I'm just going to let her in.
Hello.
There we go. It's always that moment where you're like, are they going to actually appear? Or you never know with technology, do you?
Oh, and I am so scared of technology. So I was, crossing fingers and hoping for the best, darling.
Yeah, well, we're here, so that's something to celebrate.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm really good. Yeah. Sometimes I feel weird actually saying that. At
Yeah.
this time, I feel like there's a lot of obviously stuff going on, but I actually feel really good. How are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny you say that. I was literally just reflecting on the same. I didn't have much sleep last night, so I'm definitely a little bit tired, but overall, my mood is really good today. Now, yesterday, not so great. It kind of comes in those peaks and troughs, but I think, sometimes with all the heaviness that's going on in the world, you kind of forget what it feels like to actually feel quite light and, in good spirits. So it's nice to celebrate that when you do notice it, and when you do feel it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I always love to start these sessions. I'm so excited for our chat today. I know that we'll have a lot to cover and chat about, but to start off with a bit of a check-in, so on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is feeling like, completely flat, tired, overwhelmed, 10 is feeling amazing, on top of the world, full of energy, where do you reckon you're sitting today?
I'd say probably 8 or 9.
Hmm, that's a pretty good number. And say if you were to say, over the course of the past 2 years or so, if you were to have an average, where do you reckon you've been sitting?
I think average would have been the first year of lockdown, maybe 6.
Mhm.
But then I kind of got to about a 7.5.
Yeah. Yeah. Did anything happen, or did you start incorporating anything, or was it just you got used to things and started moving?
I think the thing is, I really understood very quickly what to be grateful for,
Mm.
and focusing on my circle of control.
Yeah.
So I heard this really great reference last year, which was about plumbers and electricians. Have we talked about this before?
I've heard this too, but I think you should share. It's a great one.
So, and please, if anyone's watching that is a plumber or an electrician, I hope you don't get offended by this, but plumbers are the people or the things in your life that drain the shit out of you, and electricians are the ones that light a spark. And so I was very conscious of the energy that I allowed into my life, whether it be people or social media or any kind of media. And I really tried to focus on, okay, what's actually lighting my fire and what's making me feel really shit about myself. And I tried to focus on the electricians and minimize the plumbers in my life.
Yeah, wow, I love that. And we have someone just mentioning there that they love it too. It's incredible, isn't it? Something so simple, but just helps you get so much more intentional about how you're living and how it is that you're showing up to. So much of that we generally tune out of and we don't really think about, and wonder why we're feeling pretty crappy or, not great, or other days why we feel so uplifted. Like it's not always by chance, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I also really made a commitment to myself in the first year, where I sort of thought, well, I've got two options here in how I show up, whether it's on my social media or on Zooms with people. I can either be really grumpy and take on what's going on in the world, or I can, look at the best that I can. And I've also got kids, so I was very conscious of the messaging that I was putting out to them as well. So when things were quite fearful in the world for them, if I was losing myself, I think they probably would have lost it too. So I was quite conscious of that as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Such an important thing to think about and remember. And obviously it paid dividends for you, feeling that you were able to make that shift, which is great. So for anyone who might be watching or, watching live or later on who don't really know you, obviously we've had some chats and conversations and a lot of connection over the past year. And I know what an incredible journey that you've been on, but I'd love to, if you could, and we're happy to share a bit more about that journey, I guess, to where you are today. You weren't always this incredible personal stylist and helping so many out there, in so many wonderful ways. But what has been your journey to get to this point? And I guess what are the kind of key milestones or points that have made significant change along that way?
I think if you can imagine, the mazes made out of hedges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've been on one of those for a while.
Right.
When I'd take one career path and then I'd hit the wall and then I'd turn around and do something else. So I think my life journey certainly hasn't been a linear one. It's been very zigzagged. And I used to really envy people who had a very linear life path. But now I accept that that's just who I am and it's made me who I am. But in a nutshell, I guess my styling career started when I was 9. And I used to be able to be the one that could pick out like the best pieces in a store for anyone that would let me shop with them. And I kind of grew up not really thinking that, I just thought everyone could do that. And then I fast forward to 13 years ago when I was pregnant with my second child, and I was teaching at TAFE, loved my job, but was approached to open a clothing store in Melbourne, a denim and basics store, which I did. And as a side hustle from that, I had clients who would say, can you come and, dress me for this event, or can you come and sort out my wardrobe? And when I left that business and worked in corporate, leading training roles for big retailers, I always had clients on the side. And just over 2 years ago, I realized I was a really terrible employee because all I would talk about were the clients that I saw on weekends. And I just kind of got to a point in my life where I was ending a really toxic relationship, and I just thought, if I don't do something now that brings me joy, I'm never going to do this. I've got to just jump the cliff and give it everything I've got, and then at least I can look back and say that I've done it. And I just bounce out of bed every day with what I do, because my work is all about helping women feel amazing about themselves. And I think if I could tell you what my gift is, it's that I can look at someone and see the essence and the beauty in them that they may have lost sight of.
Wow.
And it just so happens that it is through clothes. So it's kind of got nothing to do with trends or spending heaps of money. It's just, is the person that's within you the person that you're showing on the outside? And that's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it's when you think of fashion or style, that's generally what springs to mind. It's, the catwalks, the magazines, all that you see on social media. But when you actually flip it and you talk about it in such a way that it's more so bringing the inside outwards, and how do you communicate that to the rest of the world? Like, what an incredible thing to do day to day. Like, no wonder you're bouncing out of bed every morning thinking, oh, I get to do this. That's incredible.
And even as I talk to you, I mean, you can't see on there, but I've actually got goosebumps because what I think about is when my client sees themselves in the mirror for the first time, exactly how they want to. That's for me what it's all about.
Yeah, wow.
And then what they want, and that's really cool.
Yeah, amazing. And like, say when you do work with someone, what's kind of the process that you go through in order to get to that point? Because obviously, you mentioned that you have a gift that you can see that essence, but often when people are coming to you in the first place, I'm imagining that it's a lot more difficult for them to see that. So how does that transition start to unfold? And, does it take a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of energy? Or is it something that, as soon as you put on an outfit that automatically, you feel good and you come alive? Or, yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more.
Well, I think for me, the biggest step that a person takes actually is saying yes to to saying, yes, I want to book in with you, because I know that that's not been an overnight decision for someone. Yeah. And I know that it takes a lot of vulnerability on their part to go, actually, I'm not feeling great in myself and I need someone to help me. So I think that's really brave on their part. And then my most important part of the process is actually my first hour with someone, because I ask them a whole series of questions and really want to understand them as a person. Because if I don't take that time, when I go into their wardrobe or I shop with them, none of it actually makes sense. I'm not dressing them to be me. I'm dressing them to be the best version of them. And if I don't actually take the time to find out who that person is, then the rest of it doesn't work. And I love that bit. Like, I love hearing people's stories, and I'm also very conscious of, if you think about your own wardrobe, who actually gets to see that? So not many people do, and I think it's because it's a personal and private space, and I kind of liken it to looking in someone's diary, because there's a whole collection of stuff that you've hung on to, and you can tell so much by opening someone's wardrobe, whether they're living in the past, whether they struggle to let go of things, whether they love themselves at the moment. And I guess I want to get them to a point where they do.
Yeah, beautiful. And I mean, with the industry in and of itself, it can often get a bad rap in terms of fashion and trends and all of that. And, from what I know of you, you're not a materialistic look at me type person. So how do you navigate, your purpose and your intention in a world which can seem to, I guess, go that way, that can feel sometimes materialistic or consumerism based, or, quite external values focused rather than, I guess, those intrinsic values?
I think that's where it can get really tricky, because as a personal stylist, so I don't do runway or, editorial, I work with individuals. Some people might say, well, how can you not you know, you're kind of pushing for us to buy this and that and wear this, and, you know, it's not who I am. My philosophy is that I love being an outfit repeater. Like, the dress I'm wearing today is one of my most favorite dresses. It makes me feel amazing, and I've had it for 6 years. And I'm proud of that, because I don't buy much, but everything I buy makes me feel amazing. And that's my philosophy on styling, and I try and instill that in my clients. You don't actually need a lot, but everything you put on should make you feel however it is that you want to feel. And some people will look at my social media or meet me, and that's not the stylist that they want. Some people want the trend focus, and they want to look, you know, like at the moment, this year, one of the big trends coming back is low-rise jeans. And for me, that is just a horror story, because I remember when that came out in the 90s, and I have quite a curvy body. And so it didn't matter how low my weight was. If I put a pair of those jeans on, there was always going to be a bit hanging over the edge. And I can hand on heart say I never bought them, because it didn't work for me. And my job, as I see it, and my philosophy is, how can I educate my clients in being able to pick up on trends that work for them, but lose trends, you know, bypass trends that don't. And trends can be fun, but I'm 46, Ash. So for me to wear a cutout dress on the side, I'm not going to be feeling my best doing that. So, yeah, that's my philosophy on style. It's what works for you, not what works for an influencer.
Yes, I love that. And you know, you talk a lot about that essence, you know, that inner essence. How would you, I guess, get, like, are there any tips or, you know, ways that we can start to discover that in our own selves, you know, and use that to benchmark what we wear, or, you know, how we show up every day?
Yes. So I'm a very feely person. And before I would even go into your wardrobe, and this is something you can do at home, when you're in the zone of actually doing some self-reflection, I would say to yourself, how do I want to feel in my clothes? And I'd try and think of 3 words that describe how you want to feel. And it can be different in different situations. So you might think, okay, well, at work, I want to feel professional. I want to feel confident. In my social life, I want to feel sexy or well put together. And write those words down. And then if you're going into your wardrobe and you're trying to cull pieces, or you're in a fitting room and deciding whether something works for you, go back to those words. And if whatever you're wearing doesn't make you feel that stuff, don't buy it or get rid of it, because there are so many beautiful options in clothing that you don't need to waste time wearing stuff that doesn't make you feel how you want to feel. So that's the feel words. And then I also look at, what do I want to project to the world? So if I'm working as a creative, do I want to show that I'm really creative? Or do I feel like ethical fashion is something important to me? So how can I project that to the world? And then do the same reflection exercise. And you'll find when you actually take it back to the essence of who you are and how you want to feel, it does make decision making a lot easier.
Yeah, wow. It's so, like, when you actually think about it, it makes so much sense, you know, and how it is that you want to portray yourself. And if that reflects the clothing that you've got on, you're already halfway there, you know, if you want to feel confident, you know, to actually embody that and to be intentional about that too, you know, to think, rather than, oh, I wish I had a bit more confidence, and just kind of nerve your way through, but to actually think, this piece of clothing actually helps me embody that. And the second you put it on, I'm sure you see it yourself, people's whole physical demeanor must change the second that they put certain things on.
And don't get me wrong, like I'm not trying to bash influencers, because there are some people that in terms of influencers, what I would suggest in that, because it's great to get inspiration from other people. So that's outside your circle of control, right? So what you want to be able to do is say, well, do their values or do their aesthetic align with mine?
Yeah.
So the influencers that I follow in fashion very much reflect my own values and how I want to portray myself. So I, for example, wouldn't follow like a Kardashian, because to me, my values just don't align. And I think they're amazing businesswomen, but it's not who I am. So I'm not going to rely on them to influence my style.
Yeah. And I'm not like, when you know how that feels, there's always kind of a bit of a disconnect there, or you feel maybe that there's something lacking in you because you don't feel X, Y, and Z, too, which is very interesting to think about when it opens up a whole mine of information. We talked a little bit about, I guess that essence or style, but how do you believe that clothing, or what it is that we choose to put on when we wake up in the morning, affects things like our mood or our emotions or the thoughts that maybe come up for us?
I think, and I'm very open about my experience with postnatal depression, but I remember when I was in that space for about 18 months, my psychiatrist asked me what I wore every day. And at the time, I wore black. I didn't wear anything that was fitted. To bed, I would wear like a zip-up Nike top that came right up under my neck. And everything that I was wearing was saying to the world, please don't look at me. I can't deal with any attention. And that's an extreme example, but often I work with clients who really are hiding. It might be because they've put on some weight or they're aging or whatever it is. And they think that by wearing the comfort and the dark clothes, they're going to feel better about themselves, but they actually feel worse.
Mm.
And, so many people are focused on their weight. And what I say to my clients is, I can actually make you look kilos lighter just by wearing a different outfit. And why torture yourself with, one day I'm going to be 5 kilos lighter? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. But, colour, for example, when I put on the colour I'm wearing today, I instantly feel like I'm ready. I'm ready to take on the world, and I feel happy. And I love wearing light colours in winter, because light colours reflect light. And I think you can dress, when I'm dressing people for certain events, I use colour very strategically. And there's so many ways that you can lift your mood through what you wear. And I just love that clothes can do that.
And do certain colours mean certain things, or, if we're looking to feel a certain way, or is there any kind of rule book, I guess, or guide?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's a whole science behind it. And white that you're wearing now is actually a colour of trust. So even if you think of, this is a really weird example, but have you heard of the business in Australia, White Lady Funerals?
Yes, I have.
So that colour is chosen for a specific reason. So white is, empathy and trust. So if those women were running a business in funerals and they wore all red, red is a colour for passion and fire, it would be really kind of, even subconsciously, you'd be thinking, that's really weird.
Yeah.
And I know that, blue, the colour blue is very much a colour also for knowledge. And, you would often see someone like Barack Obama wearing a blue suit with a white shirt. And, when I dress women in leadership for events or ceremony, I often dress them in white because that's a symbol of the suffragette movement. So there's so many meanings in colour. And the one colour that most people say they want to try when I ask them that they don't know how to wear is actually yellow.
Really?
And yellow is that, that happiness colour and colour of the sun. So I get that same answer pretty much with all my clients.
Wow, that's fascinating. I guess with, as you mentioned, so many people trying to hide often, and then to go from that to yellow, which would be, somewhere that maybe personally they want to move toward, but then feeling like such a disconnect or such a big jump, and not understanding how it is that they can and asking for advice. It's fascinating. And just to go back, I guess, to your own story there, you mentioned that you did struggle with postnatal depression, and how that's so interesting to me, even how, as your psychotherapist asked you what it is that you were wearing. What was your journey towards that? Obviously, you seem to have moved through that and processed that and, come out the other side. But what do you think was the key elements that helped you to make that shift?
I think definitely therapy and understanding what was actually going on. So I don't know for other women, but certainly my first year of having the baby, and it was my first baby, I thought, everyone sort of said after a year it gets easier. And I just realized that after a year, I would start every day crying, and I could not wait to go to bed that night. And I thought, that's actually not how I'm supposed to be feeling. And I found an amazing therapist. And if not for him, I wouldn't have had a second child, that's for sure. But yeah, I had all these expectations of what I was supposed to be as a mum, and it probably took me quite a few years to actually stop feeling guilty about the fact that I was in that state as well. I used to wonder, have I affected my son? And he's now about to turn 16. Wow. And we have the most fantastic relationship. And I'm very, very grateful for him, but definitely therapy. I couldn't have done it on my own.
And how do you think that helped in terms of, was it just someone to support you and to actually listen and hear, or just someone that you felt like kind of non-judgmentally you could have that open dialogue with? Or
it was all of the above, but it was also the fact that I guess I needed to understand that it was not my fault, because I think I blamed myself for, I'm just a shit mum, or, why can everyone else do this and I can't? And he really helped me understand that that's not what it was about at all. And, at the time he said, and I'm not advocating this for everyone because everyone's health journey is different, but at the time he said, I think that you need to have some medication just to help you. And I remember my dad's a doctor, and I remember calling him and saying, I don't want a bar of this medication. And he said, but Lisa, if you had diabetes and you had to take insulin, would you take it? And I said, of course. And he said, well, what's the difference? This is just something in your mind that's going to help you just balance out. And I think I took it for a year, and then I'd stopped taking it, and I haven't needed it since. And that was 16 years ago. And I was very scared in my second pregnancy would I have the same experience. And I actually had a fantastic experience that was completely different. And I really do credit that therapist for probably saving my life. So I think, you don't have to be be brave and try and do it all yourself.
Well, thank you for sharing, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that and that was your experience, but an incredible journey to learn so much about yourself.
Yeah, and I think everyone's got a story. Everyone's got a story, and everyone's got struggles, and you just to show kindness, I guess, because everyone's got their own battle they're fighting that you can't see.
That's it. And like as you said too, you know, in a way we're all in that maze that you spoke about at the beginning, and you know, we come up against challenges or struggles that might feel like hitting that wall, but you know, there are other ways around it, and nothing in this life is wasted. We learn so much from our experiences, and if anything, as you said, it gives you that level of understanding and empathy to other people who might be going through some things. Yeah. So how do you support your mental well-being these days? Like obviously, you know, you talked about a lot about how you can do that through the incredible means of clothing and color choices and, you know, style, but are there any other rituals or elements that you incorporate in your day-to-day that help support you?
Absolutely. I have always loved exercise, and for me over my lifetime, it's actually been something that has been really positive, but occasionally a bit negative. So, so definitely during COVID, I over-exercised. During lockdown, it was, you know, because we were allowed 1 hour out or 2 hours out, and I was out there, you know, smashing a run, and then I'd do a circuit and all of this, and I did an injury. And in my mind, my body is still as it was when I was 20, but, you know, physically it's obviously not. And so instead of seeing exercise at the time as a privilege and being grateful to my body, I actually punished my body. And the last probably 6 months, now every time I do a run or a workout, which might sound really lame, but at the end, I actually say to myself, thank you to my body for allowing me to do that workout, because it's pain-free, and, you know, it helps my mind. Like when I'm running, my local running track is the Tan in Melbourne. And I think people think I'm a bit weird because I'll be running and I have a massive smile on my face, and that's how I meditate. And I think sometimes people think I'm a bit crazy. But yeah, it's definitely exercise. At the end of last year, I started doing meditation through the amazing One Roof group, and it's something I need to get better at, which I know you can help me with. And what else do? I write things that I'm grateful for every day. So 3 things that I'm grateful for, and I find that really helps. And I also know my patterns of when I start losing it. So social media is a big issue for me.
Yeah.
So I have to be very mindful of, if I'm not feeling great, my habit is to go on social, and then I kind of feel worse. So I'm very conscious now who I follow. So I only follow people who give me that spark. And I've stopped following accounts that make me feel crap about myself. And also I try and eat well. And I'm going to sound so boring, but I've pretty much stopped drinking. During lockdown, I'm a single mum, and I just decided I'm not going to have alcohol in the house. If I go out with a friend and I have one drink, great, but I don't want it in my life so much. And that's actually been transformational.
Amazing. And I think, you know, with any of those choices, the proof is always in the pudding. You know, you check in with yourself and say, hey, how does this actually make me feel? You know, is this something that does light me up and that really supports me and nourishes me? Or like you said, the electrician, is it something that lights a spark? Or is it something that drains me? Is it something that, you know, and I've definitely had asked some questions of myself in the last year or so around alcohol as well. And not saying that it has to be completely cold turkey as well, whereas similar to with you, I also resonated with that exercise piece, and that in the past I've had experiences where things were too rigid and that actually wasn't helpful at all. So to start to question and say, you know, what if I experimented with this, or what if I tried that, you know, and how does that make me feel? And is that something that adds to my life, or is it something that takes away? And, you know, if it is something that takes away, how can I do less of that and do more of what lights me up? And eventually we'll move towards a path that feels a lot more like home, I reckon.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm much more, you know, the last 2 years has afforded me the time to actually tap into what's my body saying when I do this. Because often we don't really tune into that, and we let external things kind of guide our decisions. But I'm trying very much to tap more into how does this situation make me feel? And
Yeah.
if I'm getting a reaction, I just kind of, yeah.
Sounds like a pretty good plan. Our bodies are always telling us all of these messages that we usually
Yeah.
are just like not listening, or numb out, or you know, take another route. But yeah, I'd love to know, because you've had such an interesting journey, and you know, as you said, through that maze, it's gone in lots of different directions. But what would you say is the proudest thing that you've done in your life, or yeah, your greatest achievement?
I think there's a few. One of them is that I feel like I'm actually a really resilient person. And I've been through a lot of things in my life, and I know that, you know, inside there is something in there that's actually quite strong. I was saying to my brother yesterday, I feel, and this is going to sound so cheesy, so forgive me for that, but I'm raising two boys that are 13 and nearly 16. And if I can raise two of the kind of men that I would like to have in my life, that are kind and in touch with their feelings and have good relationships with people, then I'm proud of that. So, and they're actually people that I want to spend time with. So I'm proud of that. And I think it's taken me a while, but I'm now at the point in my life where, because I'm doing what I love and what lights me up, you know, I was in a very well-paying corporate job before, and I was working to the point where I couldn't really see my kids, and I was miserable, and every day I was anxious. And now I'm just in a space where I feel like I'm actually living my life, and I'm proud of that. And yeah, I think that's really what I'm proud of. You know, there's things that I've done in the past. I wanted to run a marathon, and I did that, and you know, that's great, but it's actually living a life that's true to my values now for the first time is probably what I'm most proud of.
Amazing. I feel like I've got goosebumps all over my body listening to that. And you talking about your children, like that wasn't cheesy at all. That was so beautiful. Like what an incredible mom that you are, and how lucky they are to have you, you know, guiding the way. I think about that a lot, and someone has spoken to me about recently, which kind of reminded me of it, but was, you know, when we're on our deathbed, when we look back on, you know, the whole span of our lifetime, and when we think about those moments that stick out, or what it is that we are most proud of, or you know, happy about, it's never going to be that, you know, we got X raise in our salary, we got X promotion, you know, we bought XYZ. It's always going to be, you know, was I kind? Did I make an impact on the world? Did I leave the world in a better place than when I came? You know, and that's actually the stuff that matters. And as you said, leading a life aligned with your values, you know, and not having any regrets, because when you do, there is nothing to regret because you're always staying true to you, right?
Yeah, and I think too, you know, someone was saying to me the other day, they did a training session where they had to write their eulogy.
Mm.
And I've thought about that a lot. And, you know, when I was thinking about you and how would I describe you, and I've only known you for a few months, but, you know, I think, and what's your legacy? You know, for me, your ability to bring people together and create a community where you feel welcome, that to me is how, when I think of you, that's what I think of. And that's no mean feat. So, and when I reflect on myself, what do I want my legacy to be? If I can make other people feel great about themselves, then, you know, that's pretty much it in a nutshell, really.
Yeah.
Whether it's someone I've met for 5 minutes or my kids or, yeah.
Well, I can attest to that. You definitely do, to all those that you meet and that touch you, that's for sure. So thank you for all that you do. And I am aware of time. I feel like these conversations, I could just stay all day. I get so ingrained, and I just love every time that we speak. I love hearing from you and all that you have to share. But I am conscious of time, as I mentioned, but for anyone who might be watching this, or maybe watching live or later on, who want to learn more about you or your story or what you do, or have any questions, how can they find you?
So my Instagram is Lisa Stockman Stylist. My website is lisastockman.com.au. And you can book in a discovery call with me, which is really just a chat to either on Zoom or on the phone. And so you can see, because I think when you're looking for a stylist, it's like any service that you have. You want to be able to know that your values align and that you have a connection with that person, and you sort of have a sense of trust in them. And I like to speak to any client first before taking anyone on, because that relationship goes both ways. And I'm not going to be the right stylist for everyone, but the people that I do work with, they're just the best people ever. And I'm grateful to them every day. So yeah, and don't be scared. Like, style is not a scary thing. You know, I have people DM me questions that they feel really funny about, and you know, just have fun with it and enjoy what you wear.
Beautiful. And I guess the last thing that I would just love to ask, which I always love to share, is there any way that we can be of service to you? Is there anything that we can do for you? Is there anything that you might have as an ask?
Oh, thank you, darling. Look, just spread the word. You know, if you hear of anyone who's feeling a little bit lost in how they're looking, or I'm going to be running some styling workshops starting in March, and they'll be on my website. You know, sometimes I get the odd message in my DMs just saying, I really love this post you did. And I read every single comment, and it just lights me up. So, yeah, and just support other women in business, I think, is awesome.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you again so much for this lovely chat. It's always such a pleasure to speak to you. Now, I've no doubt that anyone watching will have gained so much from this chat. You're just a world of wisdom, that's for sure. And do it in such a beautiful, warm and heartfelt, passionate way, which is just infectious, and I can't help but smile chatting to you. So thank you for your time. Thank you for all your words of wisdom, and I very much look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks,
Lisa.
darling. Bye.
See ya.